this is the season of trade rumors. This is the season of starting to get interest in certain free agents because we're under 2 weeks away from July 1st. According to the fourth period, there are a pair of struggling forwards looking for a fresh start that have been linked to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Let's start with the one that is coming from in the division, Oliver Wahlstrom of the New York Islanders. He is a restricted free agent this season, so it would be acquiring his rights to then potentially sign him. According to the fourth period, this is what they had to say about Oliver Wahlstrom. Quote, "The Islanders are willing to move Wahlstrom, but it is unclear as to the manner in which they could trade him. Do they package him in a deal for an upgrade elsewhere or add him as a sweetener to take on a bigger contract?" The first part of that tells me, Riley Smith. Second part of that is not pertaining to the Pittsburgh Penguins. So when you look at Oliver Wahlstrom, only 67 games played in the last 2 seasons, lost most of his 2022-23 due to a knee injury. And because of that, he got off to a slow start this past season, and he just couldn't hold down a lineup spot. Even when it was, Lambert first and then Patrick Waugh, he just could not stay in the lineup. What do you think about the Penguins being connected to a guy like Oliver Wahlstrom?
I like it. He fits that Mike Sullivan type of, he's not going to score you a bunch of goals. He's going to be a bottom six defensive option. The way I think I said it on here before, people don't want to, discuss it and don't want to recognize it, but the way Mike Sullivan coaches his bottom six is a lot like the Islanders, period. It's that defensive mindset. It is that grinding you down. You're not going to score a bunch, but you're going to, shut everyone else down. And that's what Oliver Wahlstrom could bring to a Penguins bottom six. It's that sort of matching styles between the Islanders as a whole and the Penguins bottom six just in general.
Yeah, here's the thing that I don't like about that. I feel like he's had to adjust to that because of the teams that he's been handed over the last couple of years. There hasn't been a lot of offensive talent in the bottom six. And even last year, Kyle Dubas outwardly said, bottom six is for defense, right? We're hoping they score, but the bottom six is for defense. So that's going to lean into how Mike Sullivan is deploying these guys. But if you go back to 2016, 2017, when he had bottom sixes that were more inclined to at least scoring more, Phil Kessel was in the bottom six. Who else am I trying to think of? Carl Hagelin was in the bottom six. These guys are defensively responsible, but he was coaching them to be able to have 4 scoring lines, 4 lines that could always be dangerous when on the ice. Matt Cullen was able to be kind of that best of both worlds situation. Wahlstrom's offensive numbers haven't quite been there, but he is a big body. He is somebody that I feel like if the Penguins acquired, he's going to be put in a very similar situation to what he was in New York. Now, that might include more opportunity, right? Because as we've seen with Jansen Harkins last season, if you're good defensively and if you play the way that Mike Sullivan wants you to play, even if you're not scoring offensively, you have a chance to play every single night. Wahlstrom comes over to the Penguins in a year where they're hoping a lot of young guys take that step. I think this is exactly what I've mentioned a couple of times on the show is they want insurance in case those guys aren't ready. Wahlstrom is insurance in case those guys aren't ready. He's only 24 years old, so maybe that change of pace, change of scenery just reinvigorates somebody like that. I mean, he was a former first-round pick, but also this is a guy that has never played a game at the American Hockey League level. So I think that's where you see him being connected to the Penguins is if the Penguins don't have guys that are ready, then Wahlstrom will get in the lineup. If they are ready, I see Wahlstrom being a 13th forward. And that's where, it's interesting because if the Penguins can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone, bring in another piece to compete in the bottom 6 while also getting rid of a Riley Smith who may fit better in New York than he did in Pittsburgh. But again, all of his connections on the fourth period are West Coast and South. If you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, I don't hate it. But at the same time, I think there are better options to bring in as competition, especially if you end up having to trade something other than, all our bad players for all your good players, which as we know, just doesn't happen very often. So I don't hate the fact that they were tied to him. I see where the tie is. I see what the role would be, but I don't know if I like Oliver Wahlstrom as a name for the Pittsburgh Penguins going into next season. I think there are better names and better situations that you could bring in to compete with some of these young guys in the bottom 6.
Does it feel like he would kind of be an Oliver Benstrom 2.0?
Emil, yeah.
Emil Benstrom 2.0, yeah. It just bringing him in, he's going to do this specific thing for you. And if he gets taken out of the lineup for someone else, of course he is. He wasn't supposed to bring a bunch of quality to the lineup. Just as you were speaking there, that's kind of the comparison that clicked in my head. It's just the Emil Bemstrom with a whole year to work with rather than a deadline acquisition. And in fairness to Wahlstrom, I think he would be a better option than Bemstrom. I think he'd be they're both 24 upcoming RFAs. So there are pieces that there are those similarities, but that's just the easy comparison to make for people to understand.
The one thing that people like about Oliver Wahlstrom, he's big. He's 6'2", I think 211 or something like that was the last time he was measured in. Big body for the bottom six. A lot of people want that. So if you want that, maybe Wahlstrom's a name that shoots up your list a little bit more than it's up mine. Let's talk about the other name that was rumored to be, linked to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and that is Andrew Mangiapane of the Calgary Flames. He has 1 year left on his current deal at $5.8 million. This is what the fourth period had to say about his current situation. With 1 more year left on his contract, teams are calling the Flames about Mangiapane and whether they can pry him out of Calgary. His goal production has dipped after scoring 35 in 2021-22, but teams still believe at his age, he is capable of putting up 25 plus goals. That age is 28 years old. Like I mentioned, 1 year left at $5.8 million. Penguins have had a lot of these $5 million wingers not work out. I mean, Rickard Rakell is on kind of slippery surfaces right now. Where is he going to go with 4 years left on that contract? Riley Smith brought in with a $5 million deal, did not work out at all. What do you think about Andrew Mangiapane of the Calgary Flames?
I like this one a lot more. He's a definite, obvious top six choice. He's going to fill in on the wings next to Crosby or Malkin. He's going to supply that, fill that little goal scoring hole left open by Jake Guentzel. For what it's worth, that's a name you're going to hear a lot from Penguins people this summer, and not because they're targeting him, but because they're trying to still fill what he left. So without doubt, Mangiapane gives more of that than anyone else that they might be linked to this summer. He's got that 25 goal ability. He's pushed past it before. And he's a name that I feel like he's kind of always floated around Pittsburgh, just sort of in small bits, just little like, if he's available, that's someone the Penguins should go after. He's not the over-the-top superstar, but definitely has a skill that the Penguins could use. And right now it's goal scoring from anywhere in the lineup. And he provides that. He could provide that. Does he need a bounce back? Maybe a little bit. And much like Laine, give him a good organization to play in. I mean, Calgary's been okay, but last couple years have kind of been a bit of a tumultuous time. Get him out of that situation. Get him into one in Pittsburgh where they're trying to close out these years of Crosby, Malkin, Letang as best as they can, and he could be a big piece of it. That's one thing that you have to look at with anyone the Penguins bring in is what situation are they coming from? Like Laine, coming from a bad organization. Like Mangiapane, if either of those guys coming from one organization to the other, it's a boost.